right, y'all. Welcome back to the Hedge. We are continuing our NFL previews, our division previews. We've already done the AFC East, and now we're gonna do the NFC East. Talked about it a little behind the scenes. We're wondering, is this the best division? We kind of all thought maybe the AFC East was, but maybe this is the best division in the NFC. I think it's fair to say it was last year since they got 3 playoff teams. So, yeah, I don't know. Are y'all? I think it's fair to say this is probably the best division. Would any of y'all push back on that if I said that?
I think you're right on the money. I mean, for the NFC at least, it's just such a weak division, and the fact that there's this much like disparity between the two is pretty interesting because I don't remember a time, at least in my football watching career, that the gap's been this big.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue kind of that the West, no, West is a clear second.
Yeah,
but it's just because it's top heavy with the Niners, and also the Seahawks made the playoffs last year too. But man, the state the Cardinals are in right now, it's hard to have them up there with them. So yeah, I'm gonna have to agree they're solidified in the number 1 spot.
And I think it's fair to say the North and the South and the AFC are both definitely the worst.
Dawson, do you think that the North could be the most surprising out of all the conferences?
I do. I think the North is going to be the most difficult to kind of do the over-unders for because the Bears, I mean, they could be a lot better. It's kind of this field's going to grow a lot. I mean, they almost seem like a good team and he felt like a good quarterback, but they were the worst team in the league last year. So it doesn't really make sense. And the Lions, I'm guessing Colin, as a Packers fan, you don't trust the Lions like I do, but they should be good. But
yeah, there's so many people that are penciling them into like, hey, you could see them in the the NFC Championship, and it's just like,
yeah, I'll believe it when I don't trust them at all. Yeah. My whole life has been the Lions messing up and falling apart and losing games at the end and making dumb mistakes. So, and then the Vikings are, Kirk Cousins, you can't trust him in prime time, but they should do well in the regular season. So, I think the North is the toughest division, NFC North.
We'll have to count how many primetime games Kirk plays when we do our under-over on the Vikings. I think that'll be a crucial stat.
Except too, I think that'll be a crucial stat, seriously. And then the Packers.
That's a good live bet end of the third quarter if they're up.
Mm-hmm.
Just
blow it, Kirk.
Yeah, blow it. Yep. And then the Packers with Jordan Love, if he's good, they could be really good. If he's not, they're going to be bad. So it's one of those things too.
It's the season of love, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Feels good.
Love be a love-hate relationship in Green Bay, I think.
Hey. As long as it's not a hate-love relationship,
Yeah.
All right. Well, NFC East. Before we get started, guys, thank you for joining me, Colin, Dylan, Tony. We got the original gang back in the house. Good to be back with y'all. And welcome to the Hedge.
The Hedge with double D.
Let's get going. All right, so the NFC East, like we said, maybe the best division in the NFC. In terms of their schedule, everyone in the NFC East is going to play the entire AFC East and the NFC West. So like we said, maybe the AFC East is the best division. NFC West might be the second best in the NFC. So that does make for tough scheduling, you would think. But the NFC East had 3 playoff teams last year. The Giants snuck in. Should have been the Packers, but we couldn't beat the goddamn Lions at the very end of the season. But so congrats.
That tough Lions squad, man. Favored in their division this year.
And then obviously Philly was by far the best team in the NFC. They won 14 games, and I felt like they could have won more, but we'll get to them later. We're going to start with Dallas. We're going alphabetical order. We're starting with Dallas. The Cowboys, America's team, which is always a joke to me. The Packers are America's team. Get over it, Cowboys. But the Cowboys, I always, in general, my heart tells me to go against the Cowboys because Vegas is always going to give them, like, or let's see here, the people are always betting on the Cowboys, so Vegas is always putting their odds kind of in that favor. So it's almost like a better bet to always bet against them, and that's what I thought last year. But they just kept winning. They ended up going 12-5. They made the wild card. They were second in the division. This year, their over/under is 9.5, so it's definitely dropped a lot. So we'll jump into it. The people that they lost after last year, they lost Ezekiel Elliott. That's the big loss. I don't know if that's going to be a big loss because they still have Tony Pollard, and Pollard seemed to take over. They also lost their starting left guard in McGovern, so maybe that's a big loss too. But their biggest weakness last year was really Dak Prescott. He missed a couple games and he still threw the most interceptions. He just kept turning the ball over. Now they have added Brandon Cooks as a receiver. So I don't know, maybe that helps with the passing game. And they added Stephon Gilmore on the backside for the defense and in the secondary. But their strength is obviously their pass rush with Micah Parsons dominating. One thing I forgot to add, their other three opponents are going to be at the Chargers, at the Panthers, and they are going to play versus the Lions. So with all that, 9.5 games, guys, it was hard for me to this was hard for me to pin down. My heart was telling me go under because Vegas is going to be adding, making their over/under higher than it should be because of all the houses, or not the house, the public is usually going with Dallas. But 9.5 just felt so low to me. It's hard to see Prescott throwing that many interceptions again. Usually a lot of those are going to be tip passes, some unlucky stuff here and there. But I mean, if you look at their stats, they had a really good offense. They had a really good defense. A lot of the points they gave up on defense were because of the interceptions. Having added Brandon Cooks, Stephon Gilmore seems like it's really going to help them. Like I said, I really want it. My heart tells me to take the under, but my head's telling me to take the over. I feel like it's hard for them not to win 10 games at least this year. So I'm going with the over with the Cowboys. Going over at least 10 games. I think they'll win 10, maybe 11. Kind of get that wild card spot again, and then I think they'll lose pretty early on in the playoffs. All right. Dylan, I'm going to go to you next. What are you thinking here? You agree with me? What's your thoughts on the Cowboys?
Man, they have a great defense. Really love their defense, of course, last year. And, if Dak's healthy, it's hard to, say. I mean, obviously he hasn't been healthy, though. He hasn't had a real, I don't remember the last time, the past 2 or 3 years that he's played all, even 14 games, 15 games. So, they lost a lot of their games with Cooper Rush in last year. And that was, that's a big thing to kind of consider if Dak can stay healthy. Looking at their schedule, it's just so tough. Like their schedule is very difficult. They have to play the Niners. They have to play, the Eagles twice. They have to play, a Giants team that might be a little better this year with Daboll. And, I'm just trying to count the wins. They've got some like really easy games against the Panthers, the Cardinals. But, it's like, do they roll into the end of the year when they're playing? Because they literally play a gauntlet. They play the Eagles, the Bills, the Dolphins, and then the Lions, who are supposed to be better and pushing for some sort of playoff run in a row. So that's 4 tough games. And if they're not on a good momentum there and they're 1-3, and then they come into, playing, at the Commanders in a division rival, if they beat them early in the season, it's like, just where are they at the end of the year? So I'm actually going to go with your heart. or your head, and go with the under on this. I think they're a 9-win team this year. It's just the hype is there. Jerry's always hyping them up. They've got a great, obviously fan base. And you're right. The public loves to take the over. Seeing them playing the Dolphins late in the year, seeing them playing the Lions late in the year, I'm just going to opt to go with the under on them, just considering that I do think that they have to play the hardest division on the other side. And I just think that division is going to be a little bit better than the NFC. The AFC, AFC East will be a little better than the NFC East. So under 9-win team this year.
All right. I like it, man. I can see that happening. I could easily see that happening because they do have a tough schedule. Colin, what are your thoughts on the Cowboys? Who are you agreeing with here?
It's funny when you always think about it. It's like, okay, it's going to be the opposite of what everybody says, just with the amount of that people talk about the Cowboys. With that being said, I am going to ride with the public on this one. I'm taking the over. I think they could easily win 10 to 11 games. The point for Dylan is the fact that Mike McCarthy is going to be calling all the plays for the Cowboys. So he is going to lose them one game close in the end. But I would also argue Kellen Moore was doing that as well last year, so I don't see as being a complete snafu that it could be. And on top of that, you've got Diggs and you've got Micah Parsons and so many talented just game wreckers on the defense that I think it just simply makes your job easier on the offense. On the offensive side of the ball. And CeeDee Lamb, I mean, you definitely got some players. So I think it's an over, and I think that they win 10 or 11 games. Yeah.
All right, Tony, we'll go to you last for the Cowboys. Are you gonna make it 3 overs, or are you gonna even us up at 2 and 2?
I'm gonna go with the over. I think they obviously have a dominant defense, a great defense. And this is kind of a career-making year for Dak Prescott. Like a legacy-defining year. If he can make that push and make it out of the wild card round in the playoffs, I think a lot of people's minds could change about him. And going off what you said, I don't think he's going to throw as many picks as he did last year. I'm a Dak believer, and I think that team goes as Dak goes. I think he's going to have a good bounce-back year, and I think the Cowboys can really give the Eagles a run for their money. I don't think they're going to let the Eagles walk away with the division. I think they'll keep it competitive, and I think it may come down to Week 18. So, Cowboys, I'm going over. I got faith in them.
All right, man. Last year it came down to Week 18, and Dallas lost to, I guess, Washington also, I think, and then the Eagles won, so there's a 2-game difference. But and I can see that happening. I think the NFC East is the one division where it's been no one's won it twice in a row in 15 years, something like that. So yeah, that's fair to think someone else would win it, but man, Philly was so dominant. It's hard to pick against them. But we will make our official picks at the end of the show for who's going to win the division. So we'll save those. All right, y'all. So we have 3 over, and Dylan's taking the under. We'll see how it plays out. We've got a couple minutes, so we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll come back and we'll do the next 3 teams all together, or one after the other. So stay with us, y'all.
Okay, sorry. Does it just go away on, or how do I make it go away?
I think it just stays on the screen.
Okay.
Tony gets a smooch on the screen, yeah. All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Hedge with Double D. We are going to continue with the New York Giants. So a little preview for the Giants. From what I saw, I would say that their strength was their running game, because they did not have any big plays on offense. In fact, they were the worst. I think they were one of the worst teams in the league on big plays offensively. But they also, between Danny Dimes and Saquon Barkley, who they just signed, so he should be there this year. They've got a good running game. They've got a good defensive line, but they've got a really bad run defense. So their weaknesses would be linebackers. They had the worst run defense in the league. And like I said, they were really bad at getting big plays on offense. They did add a couple of offensive weapons, so maybe that'll change. They added Darren Waller at tight end, so maybe he can help Danny Dimes there get a couple plays. They added I think Paris is his first name, Paris Campbell as a receiver who's supposed to be really fast, and they added Jalen Hyatt in the draft. Some of our guys here from Knoxville may know who Jalen Hyatt is, get a couple big drops downfield. And then they also added a linebacker from the Colts. I'm not sure how you say his name, Okereke, but he was a starting linebacker for the Colts, and the Colts had a good defense, so maybe he'll help their linebacking core out. The Giants surprised me. I forgot that they made the playoffs last year, honestly. I forgot they were 9-7-1. They just didn't seem like a good team to go.
They won a playoff game too.
They beat the Vikings.
Yeah. And they got destroyed by the Eagles. But I mean, the Eagles were dominant. So, and Kirk Cousins in primetime, we all know how that goes. So, again, so they started 7-2 last year, 6-1, and then 7-2, which I think was the biggest surprise of the whole season. Was like, oh my God, they just keep winning. I feel like everyone, all the talking heads were saying they're the worst 5-1 team, they're the worst 6-1 team, they're the worst 7-2 team. I think that was accurate. I don't think they were very good for how good their record was. But they won 9 games. Their extra 3 games that they'll be playing outside of the schedule we've already talked about. Green Bay is coming to New York. They're going at the Saints and at the Raiders. So we'll see if that's kind of a favorable extra 3 games there, I'd say. They finished 3rd in the division, so that's why they get to play those 3rd place teams and the Packers and the Saints. And their over-under is 7.5. So they won 9 games last year. This year, Vegas is putting them at 7.5. So again, man, it's lower, just like Dallas was. But before I make any picks or whatever, I'm gonna go last this time. I'm gonna throw it to Dylan. Dylan, what's your thoughts on the Giants, and do you think they will go over or under 7.5 wins?
Yeah, this division is tough. This is the hardest. This is a lot harder for me than the other one was that we've done so far. But I think their schedule is really, difficult. Even though they have the easier games, just again looking at those NFC team or the AFC East teams, traveling to Miami, traveling to Buffalo. They're not going to go 6-1 to start this year or whatever, 7-1. I don't know. If they do, they are a Super Bowl contender because they're playing some heavy hitters in the early season. I like Daboll. I think we all kind of talked about him over, on the last episode. Y'all check that out. But we did talk about how we like Daboll as a coach. I like him as an offensive mind. I like they brought Hyatt in to kind of stretch the field. I mean, having a burner on the outside, I hope he gets some, immediate playing time and some big catches. And, kind of maybe fill that Stephon Diggs role that, Josh Allen had with Daboll. So, like that, just have that burner. But that considered, this team has been inconsistent for the last 10 years. They've been up and down every year. They've not consistently put together. I think I'm reading a stat here. They haven't had 2 9-win seasons in a row since 2011. Is this Danny Jones or Danny Dimes' year to blossom under a new, a better offensive coach? Or is this guy on the way out and we're looking at the Giants getting a, top 5 draft pick because they're going, 4 or 5 wins this year? And I'm going to, I like Daboll. I'm going to say it, but I'm going to go with the under here. I just don't see with the toughness of their schedule. I do think, they have to play the Niners. They have to play the Seahawks. I mean, they had to play a lot of playoff teams early. I know they were a playoff team, which was surprising. And I just don't see that repeating. So I think they're going to be towards the bottom of the division this year. Give me 6 wins, maybe 5 if, things aren't going well and they start mixing it up at quarterback. They got a lot of young talent. Their coach is safe. He's not in the hot seat, I don't think. Maybe he wants to get his guy in there. There's all those kind of factors to consider. So under on it, I'm thinking they're right at the bottom of the division, maybe the last place team in the division this year.
All right. Dang, man, that would be surprising, kind of. But I honestly, I wouldn't. I mean, maybe not that surprising because, like you said, they're very inconsistent. Before we move to Colin, Dylan, I forgot to do this. It was Dylan's birthday yesterday. We want to shout out Dylan. Happy birthday, buddy. Hope you had a good one. And here you go. All right, that's all you get. A little Tim and Eric.
What was that?
Birthday. It's Tim and Eric. For anyone that doesn't know, it's some weird stuff.
Tim and Eric, I love that. That's a throwback to college, bro. We
That
we
is.
had a
You're
good time
Tim and
watching
Eric
that
and
show one day in the dorms. I
weird
mean,
stuff,
I don't remember what exactly transpired to make us want to watch that for 8 hours, but it was awesome.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Dawson. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah. All right. Moving on. So Dylan's got the under. Colin, do you agree with Dylan? What are you thinking on the Giants here?
Yeah, this is one that I've waffled with so many different times just because that 7.5 number is so tricky. I mean, if I'm looking at all of the bets, this would be the one that I would absolutely stay away from because I could see Dayball, popping 8-8 and 1 or 8-9 and still kind of passing through that. With that being said, I am going to take the under though. It's kind of a situation of how much magic does Dayball have, for this season. And especially with Daniel Jones, I know they signed him on that 4-year contract, but that was kind of, they had to do that. They've got a really weird wide receiver core of just kind of like, you've got a bunch of just different kind of gadget guys and how do they fit? And so with that kind of perspective, you just got to think like, you got to hope Daniel Jones keeps running like a madman and doesn't get hurt, and Saquon has a great injury-free year. And that has not been Saquon's MO over his career. So I'm going to take the under on it. I think this is kind of a step back year for him, but I think the answer is, all right, Daniel Jones isn't our guy for the next 4 years. We may need to make hay with the sunshines because there's a great QB class coming in, and you got like 4 or 5 really, really great guys that could change the game.
Yeah, I can see that, man. You got like Caleb Williams, Drake May,
that Tulane dude.
Yeah.
Joe Milton.
Joe Milton. Throw Milton. Throwy.
That's right. Well, Tony, what are you thinking? Are you going to keep the under trend going? What are you thinking with the Giants?
Man, I agree with what Colin says, where that 7.5 is really tricky.
Yeah.
If it were 8.5, it'd be an easy under, but right there, it's just so tricky. They did surprise a lot of people last year, but they also had one of the weakest strength of schedules last year. So I'm going to go with the boys here. I'm going to go on the under. I think they're going to come back down to earth a little bit after their great year last year. But I mean, it all depends on Danny Dimes. If he can play at a consistently high level, that could easily be a 10-win team, just like it almost was last year. So it's tricky, but if I were a betting man, which unfortunately I am, I'm going to go with the under on the Giants as well.
All right, guys. Well, that scares me because if we're all going to go on the under, that's usually bad.
Yeah, fade the hedge.
But you know what? I trust my buddies here. I'm going under along with all of y'all. I trust you. I like everything you said. I literally agree with everything we've all said. I think Dayball's a really good coach, like Dylan said. We've talked about this before. I think he kind of puts Daniel Jones at his highest level he can be at, the offense in general, but I don't think it's enough because even with making Daniel Jones better, he can run the ball. He still fumbles a lot. The fact that they had one of the worst big play offensively, like they had the least amount of big plays on offense, I think that's a huge red flag. The fact that their run defense was the worst in the league is a huge red flag. If you can't stop the run at the end of the game, you're screwed. And like y'all said, I think their schedule was kind of easier. They got lucky at the beginning of the year. They're not going to start near that well. And I think they go under also. This was one team I thought it was like that 7.5. Like y'all said, I wanted to say over. Like they'd win 8 games. They won 9 last year, and I think they've got a better team because they've added some players. But again, I mean, I guess they're gonna have to split Darren Waller out on like the outside because they don't really have outside receivers. They've got a bunch of fast slot receivers and like Jalen Hyatt to be on the outside, and that's not really a recipe for success, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, it's too much trust to put into a rookie.
Yeah, to be the only guy, and you got to have 2 outside. I mean, so I guess you put Darren Waller out a lot, but even he's had injury history. So we got a lot of injury history on this team. So I'm gonna take the under 2. So it looks like all 4 of us are taking the under. So put it all in the over, and we'll see what happens. No.
Hey, real quick side note, I'm curious what this is another thing we could look at later, but I'm curious what Jalen Hyatt's odds are for offensive player of the year or offensive rookie of the year. Just in a good system in a team that's gonna need a wide receiver 1 immediately out of him. I just think that might be a cool thing to look at. And obviously, go Vols. For anybody that doesn't know, that's all we speak in Knoxville. So I would love to see what that looks like. I know it's usually a quarterback not necessarily a quarterback for the rookie of the year, but just curious what his odds are there. But yeah, excited to see him play. But yeah, just curious on that. So
yeah, that'd be. I bet they're very high. I bet they're really good odds. You could get. I'm guessing it's like
plus 4,000.
Plus 4,000. Ooh, degenerate special. Sprinkle. Put it on the sheet, Dawson. I'm gonna sprinkle it right here.
All right. We'll add Hyatt plus 4,000. It could happen. Like I said, though, with the lack of big plays on offense, that's going to be tough unless he turns that around. That would be how it happens. Unless he gets all of a sudden. I don't know if whose fault it was, but they just were not getting the ball downfield, basically. And that could be an offensive line issue, which they didn't address, but we will see. All right, let's move on to Philadelphia. So in light of Dylan wearing his Miami jersey last time, I got my Patty's Pub shirt, go Birds, always sunny in Philadelphia. Birds. So riding with that. Philadelphia, y'all, was, in my opinion, the most dominant team last year. Obviously, they lost in the Super Bowl. Lots of excuses have been made, but they were 14-3. They honestly could have gone, I think they could have gone 15, 16 wins, but if y'all remember, week 15 and 16, they played Gardner Minshew and they lost both of those games. So, you never know. Jalen Hurts is a bit of he's not a running quarterback, but he runs a lot. So that, leads to him maybe missing a game or 2 here, but here and there. But I mean, they've got strengths all over the field. I think they've got the best roster from top to bottom, T to B, between Hurts and AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, even Dallas Goedert. And I think they've got the best offensive and defensive line. Defensive line is questionable. They've got the best offensive line in football, I'd say. They've got a good defensive line, maybe the best. Let's see here. I've got a lot of notes on this though, but they kept Jason Kelsey. They kept Lane Johnson, which really solidifies their offensive line. On defense, they kept Fletcher Cox. They kept Brandon Graham, which solidifies the defensive line. They also kept Darius Slay and James Bradbury for the back end. They lost one defensive tackle, Hargrave. They lost a safety in CJ Gardner-Johnson. But I don't think it's going to matter that much. They lost Miles Sanders, but I don't even feel like that's worth mentioning because they've got a bunch of other running backs. If y'all have seen the image where it's like Miles Sanders is worth 7.2 million and all of Philadelphia is like four running backs is worth like 6.8 million or something like that. It's like, oh man. So worth getting rid of him. They added the 2 Georgia guys in the draft on defense, which is always smart. And a couple other running backs for cheap. So I mean, it's like I said, man, they seem dominant. Looking at their 3 other games, they've got the Vikings coming to them. They go at the Bucks and at the Chiefs. They get very lucky with the Bucks because obviously the Bucks are really good with Tom Brady last year. They do not have Tom Brady. So going to Tampa Bay is probably an easy game for getting to play the best team, in the other division. Because obviously Philadelphia won their division. Their total over and under for wins this year is 11.5. So down 2.5 games. Seems like most of these teams in the NFC East are down 2.5 games from what they did last year. We are going to start with Colin this time. So Colin, give me your thoughts on Philly. I know I just gave a lot of stats and stuff there, but over under, let's hear it. You think they're going to win more than 11.5, less than 11.5? They're going to be dominant like last year? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think the fact that it's set at 11.5 makes you kind of just assume that, hey, take the under. They still win. If they win 11 games, you're still a good team, but you hit the under with that. But I completely think that it's going to go the opposite way. That's an easy over for me. Dawson said that they have one of the best rosters in the NFL. The fact that they were able to double dip in the draft first round and get Jalen Carter, who fell to them, and also get Nolan Smith, I think is just an absolute positive. Jalen Hurts' best game was the last game that he played. You've got to assume that he's going to get better. And they had a chance to win the Super Bowl. It was right there for them. And the fact that Patrick Mahomes was on the other side of the field is the only reason that they didn't. And so I think it's an over. I think they win 12, 13 games, no problem. And I also expect them to be waiting for whoever survives the AFC championship game by the end of it all.
All right. So that's your NFC Super Bowl pick.
That's right.
All right. Little future picks there. All right, man. I mean, I like everything you said. It's hard to disagree with.
I think also because the NFC is just so weak and you're going to be able to beat up on them. And even though they're in a tough, division, still, you can kind of really, put it to teams like the Saints and, the Bucks and things like that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Tony, we're going to go to you next. What are your thoughts on Philly? You going to keep them riding with the over? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I agree with everything Colin just said. I fully expect them to be back in the Super Bowl again this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they did win that 14, 15, 16 games. I agree with you saying that they have the best roster in the league, top to bottom, T to B. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to be hungry this year. He was so close to tasting that Super Bowl. He wants it, and I think Jalen Hurts is. I don't want to say the best quarterback in the league because you still have that guy Patrick Mahomes, but man, I love Jalen Hurts. I love his game. I love his drive. I think he's going to be the MVP this year. Big year for the Eagles. I hope they win it all. That's my pick. So give me the over on the Eagles. You can even turn that up to like 12.5, maybe even 13, and I'll still take the over on that.
Woo! You can do that. You
We're getting crispy.
You can probably do that and get some get it up to like plus 200, plus 250, something like that.
Oh man, lock it in, boys. Lock it in.
Lock it in. All right.
Unless Jalen Hurts gets hurt, then never mind.
Oh, it's me next. Yeah, that's. I mean, there's always you can never account for injuries. Some team's gonna have a big injury and screw it all up for us. So thanks a lot, injured guy. But all right. I'll go next. Philadelphia. I agree with everything I said, and I agree with everything y'all said. I think Philly's got the best roster. They are unstoppable on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, which is huge. There was a long time where the Packers could not convert 3rd and 1. I always, just like some of y'all are going to take everything back to the Vols or take everything back to the Grizzlies, I take it all back to the Packers. That's who I watch the most. And it sucks when you can't convert 3rd and 1. It sucks. And then seeing Philadelphia do it so easily is huge. And I think that's why they win so many games. Their offensive line is just unbeatable, it feels like. And then Jalen Hurts being able to little sneak it back there. I don't think it matters who's at running back. I think they'll get their touches, they'll get their yards. They'll do what needs to be done. And I think AJ Brown, Devontae Smith are going to dominate on the outside. And Goddard's an underrated, really good tight end. So I also see this 11.5 scares me because I feel like they're going to easily beat it. I want to say they were like, I'm with Tony. I feel like they win 13 games, maybe 14 again easily. They're going to have a tough schedule, but I think they're going to be the favorite in almost every game they play. So I'm going over also with Philly. We're agreeing a lot here though, so it scares me. So we'll see. Dylan, you gonna keep it going with the over? Or are we gonna have like 8 picks in a row that are the same? Or are you gonna buck the trend?
I like to be different. I like to say, hey, hold up, guys, slow down. Let's not all get on the same side. And Vegas tried to say slow down. This line opened at 10.5, and everybody goes, whoa, let's go and let's hammer that. And they raised it a game. So it was open at 10.5. It's up to 11.5. For good reason. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that this is the best, most complete team. They're hungry. Mark your calendars. Monday, November 20th, 8:15 Monday Night Football at Kansas City. It's going to be a huge, game. I mean, it's going to be I think the defining game of the year for the Eagles. If they can win that one, it's just, what stops them. But yeah, give me 12, give me 13. I mean, this is an over team. Now, of course, you have to account for the injury risk with Hurts, but I hope Hurts don't get Hurts. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all we need to see here is that they keep him healthy. One of the best defenses. Love AJ Brown, one of the best physical wide receivers in the game. Watching him play for the Titans, it was such a hard guy to see go. What do they do with the running back game? Does it matter? Who cares when you got Jalen Hurts back there? So, yeah, I'm on the bandwagon. Let's get this total before they put it up at 12.5. Cause I could even see, it moved quick. It opened at 10.5 and it was 11.5 very shortly after. So, everybody's kind of on the Eagles and I don't see why not.
Yeah. The only thing that scares me is sometimes the Super Bowl losing team has a down season the next year. That's a trend, but I just don't see that happening with this team. They lost.
I don't think the city of Philadelphia would let that happen.
They're gonna boo him into being good.
Reverse psychology.
One thing, Jalen Carter. I know he was still like a top 10 pick. I think that's the steal of the draft.
Oh yeah.
I know he had his off the field issues, so I get it. But I think we're going to look up 5-10 years from now, and with all the redrafts, he's going to be number one. Yeah, I think he's just an absolute monster. And the fact that they get to add him onto their defensive line, that's just even scarier than it already was. Yeah. So another big reason is Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
Well, and to that point, he's not walking into a unsuccessful organization where he's the top dog. He's walking in there with a bunch of men.
Yeah.
And, I think that's going to be a lot easier.
He's got something to prove.
Yeah, exactly.
This might be a dumb question. Is Derek Barnett still with the Eagles right now?
Yep.
Okay.
He's like a second string off the end. So, I mean, and he's really good. To the fact that he's second string says a lot. Yeah.
Well, Philly's got enough defensive linemen that they can actually sub out and keep everybody fresh and not really skip a beat when they pull out their stars. Because if Derek Barnett's coming in as a sub, you're doing all right.
Yeah, dude, seriously. I mean, seriously, yeah. Barnett, Jordan Davis has subs. They've got I think they have I confidently say they have the best offensive line, and I think they're arguably the best defensive line too. So, I mean, and that's the dirty part of football that people don't talk about as much, but they really win games. So hard to bet against them. So they lost Gardner Minshew though. So is that going to hurt them?
Ooh.
Deal breaker.
Mariota.
They said, "Man, shoo."
Yeah, they said shoe. They can't pay him. He's too that mustache costs too much money.
He's doing porn now.
He's
That
doing
would
the
not
Hedge with
surprise
us.
me if I heard that.
Yeah, he's doing the Hedge with us under the name of Colin, actually.
Not only would it not surprise me, I would have to go look and see what it was all about.
I'm subscribed to his OnlyFans already. Yeah.
It's called the Minshew.
All right. All right, moving on. We got okay. So everyone's over on Philly, everyone's under on the Giants. Moving on to the Washington Commanders, the Washington football team, the Washington Commanders. We'll see if they change names again. They're under new ownership. Who knows? I don't have as much stats on them. They lost all their quarterbacks, Heineke and Wentz. Sam Howell, I mean, obviously they kept him. He's going to be the starter now. So it's all going to be, is Sam Howell good? Or is he going to, take over? We'll see. They added a starting right tackle. They kept a defensive lineman that's pretty good named Payne. I mean, they've got a really good defensive line also. Who's the guy I'm not thinking of? That's their dominant defensive
Chase Young.
line. Yes, thank you. Chase Young. Otherwise, they've got a couple good skill players. McLaurin and Brian Robinson, but I don't see much special coming from Washington. They've got a weak offensive line. They probably have a weak cornerback. They're going to have 3 rookie starters, it looks like, between offense and defense, which is not very good. Last year, they somehow went 8-1, which really surprised me. But I mean, that just shows how good this division was. This year, they are 6.5 wins as their total. The extra 3 teams they're going to play is definitely favorable. They play the Bears, they go to Denver, and they go to Atlanta. Maybe the Bears, maybe the Broncos are better this year. Hard to say. But again, 6.5 wins. Tony, we are starting with you this time. What are you thinking on Washington? 6.5 over or under?
I like their defense, especially their defensive line, like you mentioned. They've got some really good role players too. Scary Terry, I just can't help but say, get this man a quarterback. Get him a quarterback. I think if he had someone consistent throwing it to him, he'd be a top 5 receiver in the league. I think he's that talented, and I think that highly of him. But it's hard to put up numbers when basically Joe Schmo is throwing you the ball. So with that being said, I think with that big quarterback class coming in next year, I do not expect the Commanders to exceed the win total. To go over, so I'm going to go under on that one. I think they're going to be in contention for the top pick, definitely top 5 or so. And I expect to see a new face at quarterback next year, most likely a rookie. So maybe they can turn it around because they really do have good pieces around them. But unfortunately, that most important piece is missing. So I'm going to go under for Washington.
All right. Well, Tony, great minds think alike, and so do ours. And we are going to agree on every pick in this division. And I'm going to take the under also. And I like everything you said. I don't trust Sam Howell. I think they'd have a better chance of winning 7 or 8 games if they kept Taylor Heineke. But as a team, I understand that you don't want to win 7 or 8 games every year. It'd be better to only win 3 or 4 and then restart. So I get getting rid of him, giving Sam Howell a chance. But I don't think they win 6 games. I think they're going to be, one of the worst teams in the league, closer to 4 or 5 wins. Enough said right there. I'm taking the under. Dylon, what are you thinking?
Man, this is such a hard decision. No, it's not. It's not hard for me at all. No, the Washington's had, I just read here, Washington's had 14 different quarterbacks since 2017 start games. Tony mentioned that Joe Schmo might be starting week 2 or 3 for them if Howell doesn't get it together. Who else is on their roster that we're going to see play this year?
I think it's Jacoby Brissett would be the guy.
Jacoby Brissett. Okay. So, I mean, honestly, Jacoby, and we might see some magic in Jacoby, combo, little Kobe magic Lakers vibe with, Matt. we can joke all we want about this team, and they are kind of a joke right now. Unfortunately, Terry McLaurin is a beast, dude. I'm right there with you, Tony. Man, I love watching Terry McLaurin. I would draft him in fantasy if he had a quarterback. Like it's just like I don't trust it. So, yeah, I think this is a reset year, new management. Give the new guy a shot. Let's see what happens. They're going to get ran through by the Eagles. They're going to get, probably beat up pretty bad by the Cowboys. And then they got to play the Bills, and, the Broncos are probably better with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. Like, it's just like, we're not going to talk too much about them. I mean, they're not that interesting. And then, we're all going to look back at this video and they're going to win the division with Howell, and he's going to get, MVP.
He'll be the rookie of the year. Yeah.
Hey, if that happens, whatever you guys want me to do, if they win the yeah. I'll go stand in the road with a sign that says work for, whatever. But anyway, just saying, I don't see it. I think they're a 4-win team. They'll maybe, maybe beat the Falcons. Like, I don't know, like who there's nothing I'm confident in on their schedule. So under 4-win team, vying for that new quarterback, and get the season over with.
Yeah. All right, Colin, let's end it with you. Are we going to all take the under here?
Yes, we are. We are just a bunch of bobbleheads just shaking our heads. Yeah, I agree. But Dawson, you said something really smart. Just simply the fact that Snyder sold the team and they have new ownership. And we've seen this with every single sport across the board. Any new owner wants to have his imprint immediately. And how do you do that? You get a star player. And if you can't get a star player, you draft a star player. And so you want to put yourself in the best position possible to do that. And let's be honest, the ticket sales have been going down for the Redskins just simply because of the Dan Snyder hate. And so the new ownership team is going to try to spin that up. Sam Howell isn't going to be selling those tickets. Hope he does well, but don't think that's going to be the case. So I'm going heavy on the under. The only argument against that is simply that, hey, Ron, if I can say his name, Ron Rivera is a good coach. They got a good defense, and he'll be able to squeak him out 7 wins. But you can't think that that's a good strategy for the next 3-4 years. If he has like hey, we gave it our best and won seven games, that's not gonna change their future.
Riverboat Ron,
baby. He misses Cam Newton this year, I guarantee it. Dude. He's looking at Sam Howell like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
This is what I get.
I think Cam's a free agent. He can get him if he wants.
He's out there.
Let's get Cam back in there.
He's out
Bring
there.
that hat.
That's what's gonna happen. It's all gonna come back. He's gonna go get Cam. He's gonna sign him. They're gonna run ramp shot now.
They're gonna somehow figure it out and destroy everybody. All right. Oh, we gotta make our picks for the division winners. Let's do that, y'all.
Do we need to?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we're all kind of on the same page. Let me look at the odds that
You count to 3 and all say it at the same time.
Yes.
All right, let me just say, let's do that. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Eagles.
We're all over the place. Yeah, Philadelphia Eagles. What we all said, go Birds. Whatever. They're at -135, which feels like great odds for something that feels like a thing. So
what's the Cowboys at?
190. So
there hasn't been a repeat division winner, so that's a fun one to
get 2-1
to talk about a little bit. But
what
do you think, Colin?
I mean, I think you could sprinkle some on. If you're a Cowboys fan, you get plus 2-1 odds rooting for your team. But I'm sticking with the Eagles.
So the only difference we had here, everybody had the exact same picks except for Dylan took under on Dallas. So, so either we're all going to be right or we're all going to be wrong. So,
I mean, dude, I can't emotionally go for the Cowboys. Like, I mean, when you guys are going to be rooting for them to go, I'm lose every game.
Emotional hedge.
I love it when the Cowboys lose. I get to go
Oh,
to
of
work
course.
and talk to everybody that's just America's team. And anyway, so
Stephen A.
either
Smith
way,
with a cigar, cowboy hat,
I'll wear a cowboy hat if they win the division and say go
Love it.
Cowboys.
All right, guys. Well, let's wrap it up. We're about at the end here. Thank y'all for joining us. Had a blast as always. Remember, listen to what we said. See if you agree with us. Bet responsibly and hedge those bets. We will see y'all in the next episode.
See you, boys.
See you guys.
Peace.